Just because the car has been crashed a lot. Like, a lot. You know how you know I work for my money? Knees be stayed.
That's a great intro.
Is it?
Yeah.
Took a walk through the garden, goddamn I feel like the Knicks. You would think my name is Derek, for all these roses I sniffed. I think I'm tripping off the fumes, focus not to fall over, need this way.
Hardware. I knew I was gonna need that knife again. Hardware. It has gaskets, be gentle. Yo! Ooh, good packaging.
Ooh.
Exhaust.
Yo. This thing's gonna sound pretty good.
Allegedly. I did watch a video. So the only video I could find is Revel's video of their shop car. No shot. Comes with a little, looks like it might be a resonator. So that's dope. That'll be cool. Man. Hardware. I have no idea what's in that box. May have just stabbed something valuable. Ha!
And cut.
The sun. Yeah. All right. So just because this is a single exit and I've done a video on pulling the exhaust off before, didn't really want to record that. Also, like, super easy, it's 2 bolts. But we got the exhaust laid out, so it should be pretty standard. In comparison, that is the RK titanium exhaust that was on the car. Rob built me a custom passenger side single exit, which I love. So now we're gonna try the Revel exhaust, see how that sounds, see what you guys like better, what we like better, kind of go from there. I don't have the scale here, so I can't tell actual weight differences, but side-by-side comparison, lifting them, they feel pretty much the same weight, but also it's titanium, so it's lightweight, it's hard to tell. But since they included hardware, that's super nice. Fresh bolts, little coupler, 17 that we're gonna need that I left out. So the bolts will be for this section. It looks like you reuse the factory bolts for the front. That being said, I'm not sure if the bolts that we have will work. If not, I'm gonna do some jimmy rigging. But we got our little magnetic tray. Pulls magnetic tray down, tries to stick to suck it on magnetic tray. It's been a long day, guys. Bear with me. All right, so we're reusing this exhaust gasket, which I know needs replaced. We just don't really have the time to do it. Trying to get the car ready for an event, and we still got a bunch of stuff to do. So it'll have a minor exhaust leak, but that's okay. All right, as for the exhaust orientation, it makes sense that it would go like this. Okay, let's try it the other way. You know, where the tag's facing down. That makes more sense. Oh wow, look at that. All right, so make sure the little tag is facing down. I'm definitely gonna have to find washers. because the bolts we have and the nuts we have way too small. So that's gonna be a fun time. Also looks like if you're using the factory midsection, okay, so it looks like it does fit, but as you can tell, that is going to be a problem. So I just need to find a little washer real quick. So while I look for that, we'll be back. All right, so I robbed the washers off of the bolts that came with the Cusco rear strut tower brace. The bolts and nuts, unfortunately, are too big for the stock housing. And it's nice to have replacements for in case the quick releases break. But these washers from it sit perfectly inside here. So that is dope. Super excited about that. And then we're leaving it loose. Oh, my finger's stuck. We're leaving it loose so that way we can go through mock mount everything. So from there, you can either do the white pipe or you can do the muffler. I'm probably gonna have Jerry help me throw the muffler up so that way it's set and then we can just kind of slide everything together, still leave it loose. That way you can make sure and adjust the tips and everything. But before I'm like, hey Jerry, stop recording, I'm gonna try to do this by myself. The hard part's because it's way up into her, but that's okay.
I don't think so.
Shh, it's okay. It's okay, Jerry. Oh, that one fucked it up. Believe it or not, doing an exhaust system like this, much easier to do on the ground.
Rear's lined up, front's not.
That's fine. If we get that one on and it hangs, and then from there can use two hands.
Okay. She's just gonna go in.
So yeah, the words, they tell you which way it goes. I didn't read the words. Oh yeah. Okay, that one started. So now, come over here, get this one started. Maybe. Ow. Okay. That started. Okay. Whew. That light is bright. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna have Jerry stop recording so we can try to get this on quick. Because, like I said, we're on a time crunch. All right, so Jerry and I got the rear section on. Now we're gonna do the Y pipe. I recommend typically starting front to back or back to front. It's easiest if you do front to back, but we're trying to go about it this way just because it's 4 hangers. It's a little bit more difficult to do. So now you grab your little crush piece, slide it over to where it's not going to slide off. Bring in this beauty. And you want to make sure it's fully seated. And then when you do the little crush joint thing. I don't remember what they're actually called. You want to make sure that it fully covers these lines, because that's the piece that will actually clamp down and sit in it. And then because it's not on there tightened, we can get this adjusted. That's about perfect. So I'm gonna come in here, get a little bit closer, make it a little bit easier. Okay. And then, Jerry, if you could hand me one of the gaskets and one of the bolts. Thank you, kind sir.
Yes, sir.
Bolt through, grab the gasket, fight with the exhaust a little bit. Ta-da, bolts through. Put the nut on, but just a couple of threads. Again, keep everything loose so you can go through and do adjustments. You never want to fully tighten it down. It's gonna make your life more difficult in the end. Now with the exhaust gasket hanging in there, you just rotate it like Jerry did. Stick the other bolt through. Put the nut on the end. Ta-da! Still loose, still plenty of movement. And look at that. 10-minute, there's a tire there. 10-minute exhaust install. Okay, so same thing on this side. I typically like to start with the upper portion. But sometimes that's not an option. So, we got that drawn on there. The sun is currently in our eyes. Shout out to Icon Tools. Harbor Freight Especial. Okay. You always want to make it to where the nut is more easily accessible, because as I'm sure you all know, you want to loosen and tighten the nuts, not the bolts. All right, everything is mocked up. Now, putting the last hanger on. All right. Now all the hangers are set. Now what you want to do is come through, make sure the tips are even. This one is obviously sticking out more. So the way to adjust that is by sliding the hangers, kind of moving the exhaust around, yada, yada, yada. So right there, it is essentially flush. Right there, it is essentially flush. So a quick eyeball, centered, centered. Now you are good to tighten everything up. I would recommend starting up here. So that way, that rotated. But that's okay. But when you start up here, that locks this end so the exhaust no longer rotates. And with the exhaust no longer rotating, it essentially ensures that it stays in the proper position. And you always want to make sure that when you are using one of these, you tighten it completely down until it collapses, or you're just gonna have a bad day. And as the earlier mentioned 17 that we need, grab that. And then again, make sure it covers those cutouts. I always like to have it do a little bit of overlap just to make sure it's grabbing onto the other section of exhaust. And I also like to rotate it up and out of the way, so that way you don't have anything just dangling under the car, hanging low, especially if you're tracking your car. That is a recipe for disaster. All right, 10 out of 10, not going anywhere. Ears be ringing. Oh, dope, those are also 17s. Okay, so now I gotta figure out what we did with the 17 mil wrench. All right.
You're hanging a little uneven.
Yeah, I'm gonna just snug these a little bit. I have to grab an extension, but come through, slowly start to snug them up, and then you'll want to go and check the exhaust again. Make sure it's still centered. Still centered. And then, just because the car has been crashed a lot, like a lot, this will probably never be 100% perfect. The bumper's warped. The frame thankfully isn't damaged, but all of the stuff's getting replaced in hopefully the near future. But with how it sits now, it is exactly centered in the exhaust cutouts, and the original exhaust that I put on the car burnt into the bumper, so that's always going to look like it sits lower. And just from doing like a quick little hand test, jiggle, quick little hand test, they're roughly the same distance out. So now we're good to go ahead and tighten it down the rest of the way. This is loud. Yep, gonna need my extension for those ones. It's over here. As I forget. Oh! Brother. Hold up. That is still the 17, right? Yeah. Alright. Okay. Now for the last one. Exhaust is installed. Now that everything is tight, you want to go through, check it, make sure it's not rattling, make sure it's not hitting anything. And then the last little bit is just tightening up that front. Since it's all lined up, that is good to go. And then that was a 12, I think. I remember that was like 6 minutes ago. Again, extension. Lost track of where the bolts were and forgot I had to use an extension and a U-joint to take it off. 10 out of 10, don't be like me, do that memory goldfish app, whatever it is, so you don't forget stuff. Tight. And Bang, bang. All right, now that that is on, do one last check. Make sure absolutely everything is tight like a toy gun. Nothing's rubbing, you got good clearance. The thing that I absolutely loathe about the existence of these cars, no matter what exhaust system you use, just barely clears the subframe. So eventually I might notch that out a little bit, but also like, if that manages to hit, you got bigger problems. You're having a real bad day. Everything's nice and tight, fresh gaskets, looks dope. Now all we gotta do is lower her down, do a cold start for you guys, and then you can tell me which one you like better. I might even give one of them away.